Welcome to Genevieve, the unveiling of a tribal woman, fierce, bold, and unashamed. This is going to begin or mark the beginning of an 8-part series called Bold, in which we will study 8 crazy women in the Bible who made things happen. Now, in this series, we will cover Jael, Queen Esther, Jochebed, Ruth, Rebecca, Deborah, Abigail, and Samaritan woman. And I'm going to pattern this alongside my book, which is has the same title, and it is titled 8 Crazy Women Who Made Things Happen, How to Grab Your Opportunities, and it's available on Amazon Kindle. So we'll begin with Jael. So I'll get straight into it because there's a lot of ground to cover and a very little time, because I need us to have this information in the shortest time possible. So this idea has been in my spirit for a while, and I think it's important that I get it out of the way. So in the book of Judges chapter 4 is where we find Jael, which has no prior mention, as is common in the Bible, where we find characters who sort of slip in and they do what they need to do, and the action is over and they slip out. And it says that in verse 11, now Habar the Kenite, which was the children of Habob, the father-in-law of Moses, this is Judges chapter 4 verse 11, had severed himself from the Kenites. Okay, so we find that there is a breaking away of Habar, and it says Habar is a Kenite, which is the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, and he had severed himself from the Kenites and pitched his tent unto the plain of Zanaim, which is by Kadesh. And they shewed Sisera that Barak son of Abinoam was gone up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles unto the river of Kishon. And Deborah said unto Barak, for this is the day in which the Lord hath delivered Sisera into thine hand. Is not the Lord gone out before thee? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, and 10,000 men after him. So basically, Sisera was told where Barak was, and Deborah assures Barak. Now, I'll give you a bit of context. We're in the middle of war here, and Sisera is the commander of the invading army, and Barak is the commander of Israel. And he has tagged along Deborah, who we're going to study. We're going to study more about Deborah, but basically Deborah assures Barak that he will have victory. So he tells him, is not the Lord gone out before thee? And the Lord discomfited Sisera and all his chariots and all his host with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lighted down off his chariot and fled away on his feet. Now notice the work of God in this. Regardless of, who finally killed who, it is God who discomfited the Sisera and all his chariots and all his host, such that, in fact, Sisera gets off his horse or his chariot and flees on his feet. Perfect setup, right? But Barak pursued after the chariots, and after the host unto Harosheth, of the Gentiles, and all the host. Sorry about that. And all the host of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, all the host, and there was not a man left. Howbeit Sisera fled away on his feet to the tent of Jael, the wife of Habar. Remember, we just introduced Habar the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. So they had some sort of alliance. And Jael went out to meet Sisera and said unto him, Turn in, my lord, turn in to me, fear not. Says, fear not. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said to her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk and gave him drink and covered him. Again he said to her, Stand in the door of the tent, and it shall be, when any man doth come and inquire of thee, and say, Is there any man here? That thou shalt say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly unto him, and smote the nail into his temples, and fastened it into the ground. For he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him, and said unto him, Come, and I will shew thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So God subdued on that day Jabin the king of Canaan before the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel prospered and prevailed against Jabin the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin king of Canaan. So I want to see if I can read a different version, just a bit of that scripture, not the whole of it, maybe a verse or two. And it says, And he said to her, Pray give me a little water to drink. Well, let's first start with verse 17 of chapter 4. But Sisera fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. For there was peace between Jabin the king of Hazor and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael came out to meet Sisera and said to him, Turn aside, my lord, turn aside to me, have no fear. So he turned aside to her into the tent, and she covered him with a rug. And he said to her, Pray, give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a skin of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, Stand at the door of the tent, and if any man comes and asks you, Is anyone here? Say no. But Jael, the wife of Heber, took a tent peg, and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly to him, and drove the peg into the temple, till it went down into the ground, as he was laying fast asleep from weariness. So he died. And behold, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael went out to meet him, and said to him, Come, and I will show you the man whom you are seeking. So he went into her tent, and there lay Sisera dead, with a tent peg in his temples. Now stay tuned as I unpack this shortly.